You know, for a while, we've been talking so much about Cody Rhodes. Well, what about Brandi Rhodes? She's no longer in AEW. We're going to bring you guys this massive update. Also on Being the Elite, AEW is teasing a massive feud that could finally be coming to the AEW television screens. And then also a huge rumor on some potential Hall of Fame inductions for WWE. We're going to talk about it all in today's videos. As always, if you guys want more videos like this, don't forget to click that subscribe button, ring that bell, get notified, all that good stuff. We're just going to jump right into it. Scott Steiner, the Steiner brothers. Are they going into the WWE Hall of Fame? Well, right now there has been nothing announced. Obviously, WWE announced that Queen Sharmell is going to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. We know The Undertaker is going to be in the Hall of Fame. We know Vader is going to be in the Hall of Fame. Now there's some rumors and some speculation that indicate the Steiner brothers could very well be in the Hall of Fame, which is very interesting. Now, also, I do want to mention it was discussed, right now, as it stands, nobody has anything for sure. Dave Meltzer was talking about this on the Sunday Night's Main Event podcast, that the Steiner brothers are rumored to be inducted, but that does depend on Scott Steiner. If Scott is not willing to be inducted, WWE will likely just go with Rick, the father of Braun Breaker. Now, the reason why I actually want to talk about this is because it's no secret that Scott Steiner and WWE there's been a lot of ups and downs between the two. Now, Rick Steiner, yes, he is the father of Braun Breaker. And of course, Scott Steiner, Braun Breaker, they sound identical. So a lot of times when people see Braun Breaker, they do think of Scott Steiner. And that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. Scott Steiner, Rick Steiner, obviously big legends in the history of wrestling. When it comes to Scott Steiner and his issues with WWE, before in the past, he's talked very negatively about the Hall of Fame. And I get it. I think there's two sides to everything. And I think everybody who has heard his side definitely understands, where he's coming from. Obviously, as a fan of pro wrestling, as a fan of the Steiner brothers, as a fan of Braun Breaker, there would be nothing cooler than Braun Breaker being at WWE's Hall of Fame, inducting his uncle and his father. And I do want to see WWE induct them both. And I don't know if maybe this could get resolved. I think it's a little overdue. Scott Steiner and WWE, it's time, hopefully soon, at some point, hopefully they can come together and just whatever bullshit there is, man, just let's fix it. Let's patch it. Put a Band-Aid or something. Because I think, especially when you look at Braun Breaker's career, there is a lot of good that could come out of it. And then also having that moment to induct both would also be pretty massive. And I just think in general, man, when you look at the Steiners, obviously they're not going to be wrestling in 2022 on WWE television, but just the idea of seeing them come around more often could be a really, really good thing. All right, guys, I do want to talk about this very interesting thing. At the end of AEW's Being the Elite vlog, the Hardys went face-to-face with Matt and Nick Jackson of the Young Bucks. It was really interesting. They were talking, kind of shooting the shit. Actually, originally, the Bucks were talking to Matt and Jeff from 2.0, but really they were talking to Matt and Jeff Hardy. And Matt Hardy kind of explained as to why they are there. And, him and Jeff Hardy have plans to cement their legacy and going for the AEW World Tag Team Championships, which is obviously the same goal as the Young Bucks. Now, we have seen the Young Bucks and the Hardys wrestle before. It's not something that we haven't seen before, but it would be the first time it's happened on a massive scale. So obviously AEW, now that they have both tag teams there, obviously they're going to do this at some point. And I like the fact that AEW is not wasting any time by any means, especially on Being the Elite. When you consider, it's something you got to consider. Now that they finally got Jeff Hardy, it's about 1 week in since he's debuted. They're literally getting on the content ASAP. And obviously teasing a massive feud like this would be really big. Now for me, I've said in the past, hey, the Hardys coming to AEW together. It's cool. Hopefully it's their final run. No more. It's time for AEW to invest in some of the future of their company. I do want to see the Hardys against the Briscoes. I would love to see the Hardys against the Varsity Blondes. I would love to see the Hardys with Private Party and, all of these different teams. And the reason why I want to see it is not because of the Hardys. I'm not saying the Hardys and Varsity Blondes is a dream match, but what I'm saying is for the sake of AEW's tape library, 10 years from now, if anything happens with the Varsity Blondes, they can always point back to that match that they've had with the Hardys, right? Same thing with Butcher and the Blade. Same thing with Private Party. Same thing with all of these teams, right? TH2. Like, if you really, really, like, we don't know what the future looks like in AEW, but we know if the future looks bright and any of these teams really pop off, they can always go back and say, hey, look, we were one of the teams, although we lost, we had a very competitive match against the Hardys. Or maybe they won, you know what I mean? I just look at it from the aspect of a tape library. It would be really smart for AEW to conduct these matches for the Hardys every single week. Some tag team matches against teams that eventually could be a very big deal in the company. Look at, you know, John Silver, Alex Reynolds. Look at everybody in Dark Order. There's a lot of potential there. And if anything does actually come out of these tag teams and this tag team division really does flourish, they're gonna have that footage, and that I think is a really big deal. We have been talking a lot about Cody Rhodes. Obviously, today was a massive day, March 14th, 2022. A lot of talks about Cody Rhodes' WWE status being kept secret, Seth Rollins and him being listed internally. If you guys didn't watch this video, I'll put the card up there. Watch it after this video because I give you all the updates on Cody. Now, Slice Wrestling, and I've been mentioning Slice recently. It's not about credibility or no credibility. Lately, Slice Wrestling has had a lot of credibility. But Slice Wrestling, and again, the point of what I'm trying to say here is this. We have a lot of different people talking about Cody's situation. We got Meltzer, Sean, everybody you can imagine. Slice Wrestling for the longest time was indicating that it was all a work. Cody's going back to AEW. Today, Slice Wrestling dropped a report. No mention of Brandi, which is really important because this report indicates something massive could very well be happening. So Slice Wrestling says Cody Rhodes and AEW formally went their separate ways. WWE initially offered Cody a lucrative contract, but Cody was undecided as of last week. Now there is a multi-million-dollar WWE deal being offered, which would see Cody Rhodes becoming one of the highest paid superstars. The deal also includes championship title reigns. And in addition to that, these programs would ensure that Cody Rhodes would remain relevant in the WWE universe, and Vince McMahon has made it clear to Cody that his character would be treated differently this time around, and he would not drift off into mid-card obscurity. The main hurdle for Cody Rhodes was his concern on how his character would be treated. Now there is some more juicy information, and this is where Brandi Rhodes come into play. Vince McMahon has used all of the Cody Rhodes desires to sweeten the deal. The only thing that remains is the signature, which by now may have actually happened, by the way. Cody Rhodes had meetings virtually with Vince McMahon and is scheduled to possibly finalize any deal or get, finer details. Now, here is the thing that is a real big kicker. Cody Rhodes, it was made clear to Cody Rhodes that Vince McMahon has deals in place with NBC, Universal, Fox, Peacock, and E, and now there are limitless opportunities for Cody to become a household mainstream name. So my belief is that Brandi Rhodes, who has said previously she'll continue wrestling, she's going to train, obviously she's a mother, she's got her shot of Brandi, she's going to be doing these things. I think Cody Rhodes is not bringing Brandi Rhodes into WWE. There's no mention of Brandi Rhodes coming to WWE. But what I think this all means is that Cody Rhodes having a reality TV show, right? Rhodes to the top, right? A shot of Brandi. Maybe these are all things that Cody could possibly be leveraging in. So maybe Brandi Rhodes is not a WWE ring announcer, maybe none of that, but it does appear that it very well could be a situation where Brandi Rhodes still gets in on the entertainment package. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and I will see you next time.